So I literally got back from school about, well, not school necessarily, but still wearing my school uniform, and I went onto Twitter, as you do, and I saw this. Yes, a Formula 2 driver by the name of Juri Vips, well-known racing driver, race winner in Formula 2, said the N-word live on stream, and Liam Lawson, another brilliant Formula 2 driver, and both of them are part of the Red Bull Academy, was laughing at it. What the actual heck? Seriously. First of all, what would go into their heads to say such an abhorrent thing? Second of all, that's now the fourth Formula 2 driver on the current grid. Keep in mind that there's been 23 drivers, I think, that have raced this year in Formula 2, and that is the fourth driver that's done something controversial. Because Marcus Armstrong had a similar issue a few years ago. He said something very rude, very abhorrent. Now we've got Liam Lawson laughing at Juri Vips saying the N-word, and then we also had Amwari Cordell. Less said about him, the better. I can't even. Why have these guys got a platform? Why are these guys able to race? Red Bull better take action about this, because that is not allowed. You know, maybe 60, 70 years ago it was, but our world was a completely different place back then, and I'm going to be talking about that a bit in this video, because whilst this is a motorsport related channel, some people need to learn that words like the N-word, the R-word, the F-word, and I don't mean the obvious one, why they are no longer first of all, no longer politically correct, and second of all, why they're offensive. So let's start off with the obvious one, which is one I just talked about, the N-word. For hundreds of years, African Americans and just people of African origin, or as we call them, black people, were slaves. And when they were slaves, they were nicknamed the N-word. And they were prejudiced because they had a different colour of skin. And until 1865, in America, they were slaves. And then, of course, slavery was abolished, and, oh yay, everyone's equal again. Oh wait, no, never mind. Segregated water fountains, segregated toilets, everything was segregated on the buses. And then Rosa Parks came along and changed that, along with Martin Luther King, etc. But the fact that actually happened, that people were, that people were prejudiced against purely because of the colour of their skin, is disgraceful. And it just shows how horrible our world was 50, 60 years ago. Because it may seem like it was a long time ago, but if you think about it, the Montgomery boycott, bus boycotts, only happened 67 years ago, which isn't even that long ago if you think about it. I mean, World War I was 100 years ago, that is a while ago. It's 67 years. That is the average life expectancy for someone in most countries, in fact much more than that. So 67 years, that's not even a lifetime. 100 years, yes, that's really, really, really old. But 67 years, not a big difference. And just, in fact, in the same year, similar time period, homosexuals, and now we move on to the F word, homosexuals were treated abhorrently. I will give you a prime example of that. Arguably the greatest human being to ever exist, Alan Turing, brilliant mathematician, saved 15 million lives during Enigma, and we didn't even know about him in his lifetime. He just seemed like a normal person, going about his day-to-day life. Turns out he saved 15 million lives because he cracked Enigma, and he was discovered to be a homosexual in 1951 or 52. I don't know when it was. And he had two options: one, go to prison for homosexual activity, or two, be given medication to try and somehow cure his homosexuality. And he chose the latter. And in 1954, when he was in his when he was like 42, I think he committed suicide because of how they were treating him, because he could not take life anymore. And again, Go back 60, 70 years and people, homosexuals, are being called that word. They're being called horrible words, which are still used to this day, but only by the most stupidest and politically incorrect and woke people ever. And then we've got the one that insults me the most, which is the R word. So, I'm autistic if you didn't know already, and I have been called the R word several times, and it has been insulting to me every single time. And this, again, people who are different. You know, if you see someone who's got a disability, the chances are they've been called the R word at least once in their life. And that's the thing, disability isn't even visible. Like, look at me, right? I'm gonna stand up right now. Do I look disabled? No. However, I've got a disability. My favourite phrase to describe disability is, it's not visible. Because it isn't. If you find out someone is disabled in some way, then some people will automatically go and say, that person is the R word. But that's not politically correct now. Again, 60, 70 years ago, that's politically fine because, again, disabled people treated differently. Nowadays, completely incorrect. Keep in mind that some of the smartest people to have ever lived were disabled. Albert Einstein, he was autistic. Some people think Alan Turing was autistic, but he probably wasn't. And then you've got people like Helen Keller, who was a genius. I mean, she was brilliant. She was blind and deaf, and yet I think she wrote a book and became an advocate for deaf people and for blind people. That's incredible. And you can't just make fun of someone based on how they look or their sexuality or if they've got a disability or not, because that is prejudice. Like if you just imagine, right, you're walking down the street and you see someone in a wheelchair, treat them normally. Just if you know them, say hi. Just say hi, how you doing? Are you okay, etc. Like you're talking to a normal human being. But unfortunately, a lot of people are not like that, and they just instantly think, what a R word. That shows just how screwed up our world is, because there are still people like this. And that's the thing, a lot of the people who say this stuff aren't even from an older generation. It's people nowadays. Like I see people at my school, they say the N word, they say the R word, they say the F word, and it is disgraceful. Our generation has been wronged because so many people are just stupid and not mature enough to understand that the real meanings behind these words are abhorrent, rude, prejudiced, and most importantly of all, offensive. People need to learn some manners, and these two, Juri Vips and Liam Lawson, they need to fully learn what the meaning of this word actually is. I mean, I don't know, I need to learn a bit more about it as well, actually. I think most of us need to learn more about how horribly black people were treated for hundreds of years, especially during the Atlantic slave trade, which was one of the worst events to happen in world history. On the level of, I wouldn't say world wars, but I'd say on the level of some wars, because so many people were separated from their families and emancipated. They were treated like slaves because they were to white people. Rich white people. What rich old white people decide, I'll give you basically, I'll give you the American version of this, even though I'm Scottish. In the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson actually put something in there which defamed slavery. I forgot what the actual word is for it. However, he was a slave owner first of all, and second of all, he wanted Southern support, so he took it out. And as a result, black people were slaves for nearly 100 years. And then the American Civil War happened, Abraham Lincoln abolished slavery, and then black people started to be treated more fairly, but they were still prejudiced against. They were segregated, and then Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X and many activists worked so hard. Like Malcolm X assassinated, Martin Luther King assassinated, because they were speaking absolute truth, and white supremacists, including groups that still exist today like the KKK, had enough and wanted to silence them. And groups like the KKK are the reason why our world is not a good place, because they promote hate and inequality, when every man should be treated equally, every woman should be treated equally, every child should be treated equally, no matter whether they have a disability, they have a different colour of skin or ethnicity, or who they want to be with. That's a message to those who don't believe in equality. Educate yourselves about these things. I saw something on Twitter about how someone used to be anti-LGBTQ and then became an ally. That shows that people can change. And I hope, if anyone's watching this video and thinks, am I a racist, or am I a homophobe? And then think about it and then realise I have been seeing stuff that's abhorrent my whole life and not even realised that it's offensive. And I hope people are watching this video right now and realising that, because it's disgraceful, genuinely. And thank you for watching this video. Seriously, 12 minutes. I mean, it's a bit long, but thank you for watching this video. I hope you've learned about it, and I'm going to do the same. I'm going to educate myself a bit more about the backgrounds to many of these things, and these words should not be allowed in society anymore, because too many people say them. I've heard people use words like the R word directly towards me. I've heard people say the F word towards homosexuals, and I have heard people use the N word towards African Americans or people of black people, basically. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. It won't be as serious as this, I promise.